All right, so right now what we're going to talk about is how to draw a basic eye. And just like in the last video when I talked about the proportions of the head, these are rough approximations. It's a general rule of thumb, but it's not set in stone because everyone's face is slightly different. This is just to give you a framework to understand how an eye is generally structured, and then you might have to adapt it or adjust it mildly based on the individual that you're drawing. So one thing that or at least I frequently see when people draw an eye is it kind of looks like a football or Hey Arnold's head, one or the other. This isn't true. This is not an accurate eye shape. And then, the pupil's usually like right in the middle. The iris is right in the middle, kind of like this. And it looks kind of intense. So rather than drawing a football, I find it's helpful to start with a guideline. So we're gonna draw a kite. And so this sideways kite, I'm gonna start with that line in the middle. And then what I'm gonna do is draw like a T. And now that I've got this T shape, this sideways T, I'm gonna bring these up and down. And do try and get it fairly symmetrical. It doesn't have to be perfect. All right, so I've got my little sideways kite. And this kind of represents the shape, the general shape of an eye. Now, depending on the individual, if you have really big kind of doe eyes, it's gonna be wider. For some people, if you have more narrow eyes, it might be a little longer. This is gonna be a little bit more narrow from here to here. But this general shape is what an eye is gonna look like. And this corner over here, the shorter side, represents the corner of the eye where your tear duct would be. So now what I'm gonna do is use this as a framework. And so I'm gonna start with that little kind of tear duct shape. And I'm gonna follow this curve, and then just right before it gets to the top, I'm gonna kind of cut it off like that. So you can see it's following this line, and then it just falls short of the top. And now I'm just bringing it down. I'm not bringing it to that sharp point anymore. I'm kind of cutting it in a little bit just to soften it. Now the bottom part of the eye is also going to do this, but it's not going to be quite as dramatic a peak. So it's going to come down, follow this curve, but be a little more subtle. So you can see this one's much closer to the top. This one is a little bit more gradual, but I've sort of fitted into this framework. All right, so I've got my general eye structure. Now what I can do, once I have this, I don't really need that kite anymore. So I can take my eraser and I'm just gonna lift this out. And again, I always encourage you to start with a very light pencil. I'm using an HB. Normally I would start with a 2H or maybe a 4H, but for the sake of visibility on a camera, I'm using something a little darker just so that way everyone can see it.